So this week, this week's been one of the roughest. Not only have I been trying to get everything done before the reveal next week, the reason that this episode is called The Extras instead of just The Lights, because of all the stuff that we'll be looking into in this video, i.e. the interiors, installing them into the building. I'll also tell you a little story about how I dropped half the model, and then obviously there's the entire light side of it, which I'll be going into detail about. If you're excited for that, welcome back to Building the Ultimate Spider-Man mod, a 6-part series where we go through week by week, changing up the awesome Daily Bugle set, changing it from a really awesome D2C set to a centerpiece of a home, comparing it to something like the Millennium Falcon. Obviously this is part 5, so if you haven't caught up yet, I highly suggest going back and taking a look at the 4 parts we've already released. Part 1 we took a look at the plan and basically talked about the reason I attempted a modification like this. Part 2 we took a look at the building and made sure all of our modifications that we had in the plan possible to do in this set without too much rebuild. Part 3 we combined 2 bugles, make it an 8-story monster. And last week's part we took a look at the minifigures and how I'm going to incorporate them into this model, and also took a look at some new additions that I plan to add. Without further ado, let's get straight into... Let's start off with the most catastrophic thing that happened this week, and probably the reason that this episode has been delayed. For those of you who didn't know, these episodes were always intended to come out on a Saturday. Sometimes they come out a little bit early if they were ready. Obviously, it being Tuesday today means this video is late. The reason that this video is late is because as I was taking the model apart, I kind of slipped and all of the model crumbled in my hands, and like the Butterfingers I am, I just dropped the model that I was holding. Now thankfully this was just one section of the model, and by one section I mean just 2 floors. We'll see what I mean in a minute with the whole sections thing. Yeah, it basically means I had to rebuild 2 sections, which was a massive pain. I had just literally finished putting on most of the lights, so it crumbling to pieces and me basically dropping it sealed the deal for the night. I wasn't going to do anything more. So apologies for the delay, but we're back now. So let's get into the interesting parts of what we actually did this week, apart from rebuilding the model. So a few weeks ago, I showed you this. So for those of you who didn't watch the previous parts, and you're just watching this one for the fun of it, as we're going to have duplicate rooms because I bought 2 Daily Bugle sets, it was always intended for me to rip these duplicate rooms out of the model and then build my own rooms that I wanted to display. So earlier on in the week, I took these modules apart and started constructing my own little elements to go inside these floors. I especially loved building things like the newspaper printing room and the editing room. All of these cardboard boxes, which is the same technique used in the actual set, just makes it look like to me that they're packing up these newspapers to start going across New York and be delivered to all these newspaper outlets. And in fact, could be what we use our Daily Bugle van for. Maybe it's not a camera equipment van. Maybe it's actually a delivery van that delivers papers across the city. And this room is where they pack it all. The newspaper machine is honestly one of my favorite little builds in this entire thing. It's actually greatly inspired from Robin Hood Bricks' video, but then heavily modified to just make it work in the scene that I want to portray. Big shout out to him. The video for his machine will be in the description below if you guys want to go check it out. But obviously I filled this room with the no crime newspapers. Now obviously I've had a spare set of newspapers, and because we get multiple no crime newspapers, I decided that the machine should be printing as many of these as possible. So you can see here the paper goes in and it comes out printed with the newspapers on it, and then it goes off to this conveyor belt to be packaged up into their cardboard boxes. Now obviously I wanted an editing room, and this is what I came up with. And transitioning into real life here, now I'll be doing a little bit of in-depth stuff on my website about the studio file. I may even provide the studio file for you guys if you guys wanted this over on my website when the series is finished, but just be aware that I didn't actually follow the studio files to a T. I didn't make instructions or anything. I just sort of looked at what I had and then tried to translate that onto my actual project. But I must say, I have seen a lot of you guys tagging me on Instagram of your own green screen rooms, and that inspired me to change a few little things here and there. I think it turned out amazing, and I'm really happy with the way that this looks. I basically just wanted to make it look like they were filming the billboard that was happening as if it was a live broadcast. So I do plan to put J. Jonah Jameson on the chair here and have Boompole Guy recording his audio. So that'll all happen inside this room, which you'll get to see next week, as well as a few other things that I have secretly planned. The last room on our list is just a simple boardroom. Now this table is not constructed very well, but it does the job. It's strong enough to actually be there, and I can't wait to put a few of the civilian figures around this, as if they're having some sort of meeting about the headlines they've got to come up with. And overall, when we add the figures to this build, I feel like it's going to come alive. and turn a relatively boring room into one that I think is actually going to be pretty cool. The only thing I wish I could have done is add a whiteboard in this room, but I just didn't have the space, as if they were like brainstorming for ideas or something like that. Maybe something that we can look into for next week, but don't be surprised if you don't see a little whiteboard in this room. Another set of additions that I'd like you to see just before we jump into the main event was the Ghost Rider climbing up the side of the building. Now, climbing up the side of the building is kind of inspired from the film, because I believe he does do this in the film. I don't know if this is a trait that he just had in the comic books, that his bike can climb up buildings or whatever, but the bike is designed in a way to look like it is scaling and riding up the building. The bike for this build is also inspired from the games that he appeared in. Now, I know it's not an exact copy because some of those Wampa horns are like £5 each on Bricklink, and I'm just not doing that. They're way too expensive. But overall, I'm happy with the design of this bike. I made a lot of design changes from the game, and I'm happy with the end result. The only issue I seem to have with this bike is it doesn't stay together very well, meaning it doesn't actually perform well as a bike, especially because this back tire is incredibly loose because of the used part. So if you were building this, and once again it'll be in the studio file, don't expect it to be a good bike for riding on flat surfaces. This bike was designed because I knew it was going to be going up the building, so all it needed was to look like a chopper bike and be able to stick to the side of the building. There was also this glider. Now, I built this again based on the set that it was originated from, so the build is mostly the same, except I changed a few little things. I didn't like the flick fire missiles that it had in the original set, so I got rid of them, changed it out for some brackets, and put these two 1x1 studs here. And if you want to, you can actually add some firing effects in there to make it look like he's shooting bullets out of his glider, which I thought was pretty cool. Not only that, I gave him these really awesome pumpkin bombs from the Bridge Battle set. Now, that was the only set that this version of the pumpkin bomb came in this set. All the rest of them have pretty much been just orange heads with a flame piece attached to them, where this is the Ghost Rider headpiece, which is a molded piece with a pumpkin bomb basically printed on. Now, they're actually quite expensive on Bricklink, so if you actually want to give these guys these types of pumpkin bombs, prepare to shell out. But honestly, they were my favorite looking ones, and not only did I give it to Hobgoblin, but I also gave one to Green Goblin as well. And as you can see, I've modified the pole he's attached to, so it's now on a ball joint, meaning I can put him on the stud at the end instead of the two studs on the other end, meaning I can get a lot more posability out of him. And those of you with a keen eye can see that I've done this many a time throughout the building, giving us more opportunity to pose minifigures out in the air. But that's it for the additions. Now, I loved these parts. They add so much more versatility to this building, and I can't wait to get minifigures in it to really fill it up and make it look awesome. But obviously that wasn't the main thing of this part. But just before we get into that, I just want to mention real quick that the t-shirts are only available again for 2 weeks. October 16th is the ending date, and then these shirts will never ever be made again. If you haven't seen the shirt, it's this shirt. Now, this is a Daily Bugle inspired shirt, obviously relating to the Tommy C. Bricks channel. It's designed to intentionally not look like Lego, but still be a massive reference to the channel as well as the series. If you want to look really cool out and about, represent the channel, and fund the next multi-part series, go and take a look at the website. And don't forget, if you use code TCB10 at checkout, you can get 10% off, making this even cheaper. This is honestly one of my favorite pieces of design merch I've ever done, and I know a lot of people have expressed excitement for it, so if you want to be like them and order one for yourself, go to the link in the description and go and take a more in-depth look. That's TommyCBricks.com and use code TCB10 to get 10% off your order. But back to the episode. This is honestly one of the parts that I've been dreading, but also really wanting to try out. Obviously, as you guys would know, Light My Bricks is sponsoring this series, and they've provided all of the lights that I need to basically light up my entire building. So not only did they provide me with a full Daily Bugle kit, which is actually one of their standard kits for the Daily Bugle unmodded, which by the way is a really nice kit, so if you guys haven't checked out their website already, you should totally go and check it out. If you've got a model that you need lights for, most of the time these guys will have it, and if they don't, they have a massive DIY range full of expansion boards, animation boards, and a massive range full of different LEDs. They also sent me one of their DIY kits, as like I say, this thing's double stacked, so we needed those little extra push to make sure we could light up this entire building. And even though I don't have much to show you in terms of the installation, I actually compare it a lot to sewing. Being able to weave LEDs through studs to make sure you've got enough clearance and make sure you've got enough wire to connect it to your expansion boards is actually incredibly therapeutic whilst installing a lighting kit. I did loosely follow their Daily Bugle instructions, but obviously with a model like this, I had to adapt and basically ignore all of their cable management steps to make sure I could actually get the wires where I needed them to be. And although the cable management isn't necessarily finished finished and where I'd like it to be yet. All of the LEDs for the building is in place, and I can basically take you around and show you what I've done and show you some scenes of how good this building looks when it's all lit up. I'm obviously not going to show you the full thing. Make sure you subscribe to see next week's part because that will be the full reveal. But I basically want to take you around a little tour of the building and show you where some of these lights are and how they look. Now, the reception area is actually my favorite area. This light underneath the door gives a great glow effect, and these extra spotlights shining up onto the sign and the billboard, which by the way are all genuine Lego elements that they provide to you, really do set the building off and make it look awesome. Obviously, in every room of the building is going to be some form of ceiling light. Now, the lights on the top floor are slightly dimmer. The reason I did this was because I don't want to actually put any minifigures in this top floor, as I want to have JJJ and Betty Brant somewhere else in the building. So this is almost like a dimly lit kind of situation because no one's around to activate the motion lights. Now, I could always change this out in the future for the brighter lights if I decide that I'm actually going to put minifigures up there, but for now I like this effect. And it makes the top floor look slightly more visually interesting as it's a different shade of color. Before we look at the top, I just want to take a look at the back, and I love that this attention to detail stays with the back, considering I could imagine it be one of those things that other companies might overlook. There are still two spotlights shining on this sign, lighting up this sign, and again matching all of the other signage on the building, and this alleyway light as well as the balcony light are lit up in the same way, and it really does give it a creepy and eerie effect, something only a lighting kit can provide on a Lego set. And now this is the roof. The Daily Bugle signage, I know it sticks out on the sides, and I know people have a problem with that, but I love the effect these spotlights give to it, and I know the spotlights kind of emphasize that it goes off the side of the building, but I don't care. This effect looks so good, and I can't wait to have it displayed where I want to display it, and really just have those spotlights shine on that logo. This is honestly one of my favorite parts about this lighting kit, and going up, it doesn't stop there. We have this mast and fire star. Now, I love that the mast has a flashing light on the top, and you don't need a separate board to do it. That's just a flashing LED that you put on the top there, and although I don't like these wires coming out the back of it and all up the mast and everything, Firestar just looks amazing, done with these micro LEDs that I've never seen before. They're smaller than the standard LEDs that are already incredibly small. I love these little things. I need to see if I can order more of them to go in something like my Hogwarts Express. I think that would be really cool. Overall, I love the way that the building looks now. I think it's just one of those things that I am so happy I attempted, and I know that lighting kits can be a bit of a struggle, especially when you're creating one that doesn't exist and you're following your own instructions and you're just trying to make it work. I'm happy with the way that I got this to look, and like my bricks modular system and their really helpful instructions did help a lot with this process. I recommend you guys check them out. The link is in the description. If you have a Lego set that you want to light up, Like My Bricks is the way to do it. This just makes me really look forward to next week's part, where we're going to look at basically all the things that we've done, where I'm going to display this set. We're going to add all of the figures and vehicles and everything, and then we're going to vote on the next project. That's right, you guys will get to decide what multi-part series we do next. I have a lot of ideas that I want to put down, and we'll do it via a YouTube poll, so if you're excited to hear the options, make sure you come back for next week, where we reveal the ultimate Spider-Man mod. Thanks for watching this video, guys. Thanks to all the members that make this possible. Remember, members will get an extra 7th part, so if you want to see the part 7, which is going to be behind the scenes of this entire series, consider becoming a member today via the link in the description or by pressing the join button next to that subscribe button, which I'm sure you've already pressed, and press that bell so you get notified whenever I upload a video, and you can comment first if you're the first one here. Let me know what you guys are thinking of this series in the comment section below. I would really like to get your feedback on where you think this series could go in the future after this Daily Bugle project has ended, and I will speak to you guys in the next video. Good.
Are you serious? You haven't subscribed to Tommy C. Bricks? Or watched the rest of the videos in the series? What? You haven't seen the links in the description to all the people that helped? Go do that and get out of my office!